Welcome everyone. Good afternoon. So nice to see you all despite the traffic in Lagos today. It's really a pleasure to see you all. And to everyone online, thank you very much for signing on early. I can see Victoria Gom, Ijoma, Yonike, Okpayemi. Wave your hands when you hear your name, please, online. Rita Ahodagesi, Tomi, Dara, welcome, 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 Pati Ukegbu, Chiamaka, Tega, welcome everyone. I think we still have a few minutes just to let everyone settle in. Sorry, we're a few minutes late, but let's just give a few minutes. Call your friends, call your professional colleagues, call everyone. This is going to be a really awesome session. So let's go. Welcome to those of you who are physically present. Thank you for being here. And for the technical guys in the background, thank you for helping us to set up. We would now start the program and would like to start by some quick introductions. My name is Igeme Zenwata. I'm an oil and gas practice expert in the commercial space. I've been working with Total Energies for the last 18 years. Prior to this, I was a business development manager in finance. It's my pleasure to be here today, and I consider it a real honor. I would like to let you know that much as this is a panel session, please feel free to engage, feel free to participate, because in everything we're going to do today, we want you to leave this place having learned something new and being fully aware of these opportunities that we want to discuss. So thank you once again. At this point, I'd like to call on Mrs. Adeyemi, who is the committee chair for this roundtable, and also an executive member of WIMBIZ.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon particularly to our online audience. I say good afternoon and I wave to you. It gives me pleasure to welcome you to our first hybrid roundtable in 2021. A round of applause because we are indeed quite excited, and we hope that we'll have many more of this. We've been having the roundtables online since the onset of COVID. As more people get vaccinated, we have more confidence in having this physical session. So today I'm very excited that we're having a roundtable speaking to women in energy and the opportunities in the sector. Warm appreciation to our sponsors, Olon, a round of applause for them. We're doing this in conjunction with them. We're going to have a great session today, and if you eventually get to hear the profile of our speakers and our moderator, you will understand what I mean. So by all means, it's going to be an interactive session. The compere will tell you a bit more about the ground rules for engaging and how long we're going to be here. But in all, it promises to be an exciting afternoon. So sit back, relax, and do enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Adeyemi. I'm sure you all agree with me. There's nothing more to add to what she said. And we all look forward to an exciting time together today. So just to sort of recap again, for some of you who might not know, WIMBIZ is an organization that has been at the forefront of creating opportunities for women, advocacy, as well as also supporting women in their careers, both in public, private sector, as well as in business. So today, we also encourage you to take the news out, speak to your friends, speak to people in your network about this organization. Wherever you find yourself, whether in business, whether in politics, whether in the corporate career line, WIMBIZ is a very strategic organization for you to belong to, and we encourage you to please do so. Visit us on our website at wimbiz.org, follow us on social media, tag us, comment on our programs, join these programs. Lately, we've also had a lot of online engagement to try and reach out to people, both locally and internationally, and they've all been quite successful. We encourage you to do your bit in spreading the word, because like an old proverb says, I can't really remember who said it, when you travel alone, you travel quick. When you travel with others, you travel far. So learn to travel together as women, supporting each other, encouraging each other, collaborating with each other, applauding each other. So now, once again, would like to thank All One. So please give them another round of applause. Did I miss something? Oh, okay. Today it's All One and WIMBIZ, so we will continue to recognize you because without companies like you, without companies like all those who support us, we really wouldn't have a WIMBIZ. It's the same thing we continue to speak about. Collaboration and supportive engagement and networking is how we continue to prosper and we continue to make impact as WIMBIZ. Okay. So at this point, I'd like to invite the All One representative, Mrs. Adaobi Oniwinde. She is a policy and partnership manager of All One, to make her opening remarks. I would have gone into a long diatribe trying to introduce her, but you know, sometimes giants walk into a room and you give them the opportunity to introduce themselves. Welcome again, Adaobi.
Good afternoon. Can people hear me okay? Okay, better. Special guests, panelists, and our distinguished guests, virtual participants of the WIMBIZ 2021 July Roundtable. It's really an honor to be here. My name is Adaobi Oniwinde. I'm the Policy and Partnerships Manager at All On, and it's my great pleasure to give the opening remarks at this event. First, on behalf of my employer, All On, proud sponsor of this roundtable event. Second, as a woman in the energy business in these dynamic times in this dynamic country. Third, quite frankly, it's just great to get out of our Zoom and Microsoft Teams offices, get dressed, be out here networking with brilliant, influential power brokers who all happen to be women. Okay. The theme of this year's conference, Women in Energy, Leveraging Opportunities in Renewable Energy, was chosen simply because All On is the sponsor of this event. As many of you will know, All On is an impact investing firm. We are not an NGO, and we invest in clean energy companies whose products and services are focused on our mission, which is to speed up the closing of the access to energy gap by increasing access to products and services for off-grid communities that are underserved and unserved. This makes our constituency the tens of millions of Nigerians with little or no grid power, and we do have a special focus in the Niger Delta. We work with a four-pronged delivery approach that includes the All On Hub, impact investing, enabling finance, and creating an enabling environment for the sector in Nigeria to grow. And that's exactly what we're doing here. It gives All On a unique opportunity to support a homegrown event with an emphasis on women's career growth and development. This is the right time to engage women in the renewable sector. It's a relatively nascent sector, the world over, actually, so Nigeria is not that far behind. We have a responsibility to ensure that women are included early and gain top positions from the get-go. This is happening, but not enough. That's why we're doing these. Now, if there is a sector-specific knowledge gap, and in fact we know that there's plenty of gaps, not just amongst women, because the sector is growing. So what do? We simply fill those gaps, right? That said, I'm looking around the room, I'm looking at names online, and there is a phenomenal representation of women participating here today. We have Mrs. Pamela Adewite, Group Head Sales, Commercial and Industry at Starsight Energy. Mrs. Omobola Omofaye, who is currently the Chief Commercial Officer at Energy Solar, an all-on investee, I'm proud to say. Welcome. And we have Rolake Akingube Filani, who is an executive council member at WIMBIZ. It's also, yes, round of applause. It's also noteworthy that a Nigerian woman, Damilola Ogunbiyi, is CEO of Sustainable Energy for All. That is the premier international organization working in partnerships with the UN, leaders in government, the private sector, financial institutions, and civil society, charged with driving faster action towards the achievement of SDG 7, which calls for universal access to sustainable energy by 2030 and the Paris Agreement. So we must be more deliberate about the inclusion of qualified women in the sector. All On is unapologetic about this. I will tell you for free, it's written in our programs and grant guidelines that we prioritize solid proposals that are women-led and activities that benefit women. Yes, we do that. So I had 5 minutes. I'd just like to close by saying that I'm really looking forward to insightful conversations about opportunities that exist in the Nigerian sector for women. I'm hopeful that our relationship with WIMBIZ, through engagements like this, would help get more women into the energy sector careers and entrepreneurial opportunities. Thank you very much, and I wish us all a productive afternoon.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so very much. Who can remember when I said there was an elephant in the room? You know, and then I think that was an understatement. There are indeed elephants in the room. Please give them all a round of applause, please. Perhaps a standing ovation. We need to stretch our legs a bit. A standing ovation, everyone. There's a really, really giants in the room. Thank you very much for honoring us with your presence. Thank you very much for making time out of your rather busy schedules to be here today. We really appreciate it. And as WIMBIZ, we are very grateful for this time, for this contribution to national development, not just women's development. You know how they say when you enlighten a woman, you build a community. And I want you all to really realize how strategic today's meeting is. It's not just about a strange subject. It's about opportunity. It's about enabling development. It's about growth. Those things we often complain about. Oh, I have a business. My biggest frustration is energy. If only Nigeria had more power. Now, if you hear what she just talked about, they're going to concentrate on off-grid communities. It means that wherever your community is in Nigeria, if you had a problem, because I understand that today we generate enough power, but distribution is the biggest problem. So this is going to be an opportunity for even those communities that are off-grid. All On is here to make a presentation on the subject, and the panelists will go into discussing this in more details. So keep your ears open, get out your notepads, bring out your pens, call up your friends, chat with them, go on social media, talk about this event. Let people come on and know, especially women, that this is the time and the time is about to change. We're done complaining about women not being given opportunity. These are the opportunities we need to learn about and we need to follow through. Most of the women you see here today, you would normally need about 6 months to 1 year to get an appointment. Here they are. If you have questions, get ready to ask them, okay? Thank you once again for being here. So at this point on the agenda, I have the pleasure of introducing Mrs. Rolake Akinkugbe Filani. You know, today I'm very proud of myself, and I must say it, okay? I've had the singular honor of introducing women I normally see on the pages of magazines. Yeah? I usually see them on CNN, but look at me. Take a picture, please. Please, 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 take a picture. This is one of those days you put on the wall in the office. You go home, you tell your daughters, guess what? I met one, not two, not three. I met all these women today, okay? These are the moments in our lives that we use to make our daughters proud. We use this moment to make our sisters and our neighbors and our colleagues proud of what we are achieving as women. And Mrs. Rolake Akinkugbe Filani is no small woman. But I'm just going to spare a few sentences to give you a tip of the iceberg of where she's been, where she is now. And please forgive me, I would not be able to capture everything. She is a Chief Commercial Officer of Mixstar Africa. Google them, Mixstar Africa. It's a full page, okay? It's a leading energy and infrastructure sector initiative, and she's an executive in this company. She has had more than 15 years track record of helping to lead finance and upscale businesses across Africa. She's currently part of the group executive management team as a chief commercial officer. This company has a lot of investment in leading infrastructure and housing development across several countries currently in Africa. I believe we're in Nigeria, Senegal. So she also sits on the advisory boards of the African Energy Chamber and Persistent, Africa's climate venture builder. She's also on the executive council of WIMBIZ. Please, with a round of applause, welcome Mrs. Rolake.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ezinowata. You know, she came to me when she arrived and said she's never anchored before. Who would have guessed? Thank you for the lovely introduction. So we're going to get right into the meat of it. Today's topic is on women in renewable energy. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our panelists today. First up, we have Pamela Adigbite. If you'd like to come up, please, and take a seat in the middle. She is currently the Group Head of Sales for the commercial and industrial sector at Starsight, a company that provides premier clean on-grid and off-grid energy services to commercial and industrial clients. So great to have you with us here today, Pamela. And second, we have Omobola Omofaye, who is the Chief Commercial Officer at Energy. Please come up. Energy Solar provides reliable and sustainable energy services for small, medium, and large businesses across Nigeria. Before we get into the discussion, I just wanted to mention that the virtual participants will have a chance to ask questions using the Q&A, and please keep the chat flowing. We're all in this together. So I'd like to briefly set the thematic context for our discussion. It's a very short brief. We are the first generation to feel the effect of climate change and the last generation who can do something about it. That is a quote from former US President Barack Obama, very poignant words. So how can we do something about it? I personally believe renewable energy has been seen as one of the ways we can do something about it to mitigate the effects of climate change. But we're not here today to discuss climate change. As we all know, that's a whole nother topic. But it's a very important one because in addition to the tremendous business and commercial opportunities that exist in what I believe is a viable sector, it is also a key driver of sustainable economic development. At least 600 million people in Africa today lack access to universal electricity that is affordable, reliable, and efficient. We have just under a decade to 2030 to achieve SDG 7. But renewable energy is not just a driver of SDG 7, but actually several other SDGs. Sustainable cities, gender inequality, job creation, etc. Here in Nigeria, 80 million citizens live in energy poverty. And in my view, frankly, let's face it, we're all really energy poor. We mostly live largely off-grid with generators. And for those who can afford two generators, our national grid is often seen as the backup, actually. So there is no doubt that we need to diversify our fuel sources. The World Bank says Nigeria is losing $26 billion annually due to insufficient electrification. As part of its Green Recovery Plan, the government brought out the Economic Sustainability Plan that would commit almost $700 million to installation of solar panels directly onto homes that would help supply 25 million individuals, that's 5 million homes, with electricity and potentially create 250 new jobs. So renewable energy is extremely important. Let me give you one last final statistic. Creating economic development and jobs in manufacturing, installation, and more is going to be key. And according to research done by EY, for every $1 million spent on renewable energy and exports, you create 4.8 full-time jobs compared to 1.7 full-time jobs in the fossil fuel industry. That is the oil and gas sector. Let's even look at the gender perspective. Today, the sector alone accounts for 32% of women employed compared to 20% in the oil and gas sector. So women are key to this. And in fact, I am personally increasingly convinced that by the end of this discussion, you will see that we cannot achieve any of the SDGs without sustainable, clean, and reliable energy. But don't take my word for it. We have these seasoned experts who will help us answer the following questions. What opportunities exist? Is there an enabling environment for off-grid energy companies? How can solar products provide business cost savings and improve operations? Is investing your own hard-earned cash in renewable energy solutions a sound proposition? And how can we get more women into the sector? So I'm just going to do a manual poll here. How many people have solar panels fitted in their homes or offices? And I'd like our online audience to join in. I'm just going to do a quick head count. Home or office? Okay, so roughly in the room, I would say maybe about 30% of the room. Do we have any online? Oh yeah, we have a few online. Okay. Should I hazard a guess and say probably the larger proportion are in the office as opposed to homes? Because I think corporates are probably a bit more convinced than individuals. Okay, second question. How many of people would seriously consider switching to solar? Okay, we have a few more hands in the room. Okay, some more people online. So that's great. So I'm just going to go straight and ask, starting with Pamela. Thank you, everyone, for participating in the manual poll. I'm just going to go straight and ask Pamela first to tell us why renewable energy. And you can talk a bit more about the work you do in the space and your journey here. So they're just going to make a few opening statements on this. You know, why should we care about renewable energy? And what has been your experience so far in the industry? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that introduction. I'll try to speak as loud as possible. So forgive me, I'm a little bit of an introvert, so I'll try my best. All right, so I'll do a quick introduction about my experience so far in renewable energy, and then I'll talk about my previous experiences, and then I'll answer your question. All right, so far in renewable energy, I would say I have just about 5 years. Like we've alluded to earlier, it's relatively new. So, I mean, in the early 20s, in the early 2000s, 2001, we weren't really talking a lot about renewable energy. But somewhere around 2005, 2006, it started becoming something that we really need to pay more attention to. At that time, I was working in the telecoms industry. We weren't talking about renewable as we should have at the time. We're talking about telecommunications. Communications was the key focus at that time. And then, of course, I moved into oil and gas, and then 5 years in renewable energy. So why renewable energy? Before I joined Starsight Energy, the company where I currently work with, I had an interest in biogas. I mean, I would drive around Lagos and I would see waste, you know, plastic bottles and things like that. And I would say to myself that that's money wasting right there. So I developed an interest for biogas and biomass. Then my research started with a couple of people out in SA and in Australia where we're looking to build a biomass solution here in Nigeria, basically to reduce waste. And at the same time, filling the gap for energy, the deficit in energy in Nigeria or in Lagos at that time. And then Starsight reached out, and it became even more apparent that we need to do a lot more in renewable energy space. From some of the interactions I had with customers, they would tell me, I don't want solar. I've had a bad experience with solar. I have batteries in my house that I've trashed somewhere. It only worked for 6 months. We started trying to resensitize these customers about benefits of renewable energy. First of all, by having them focus less on what is the primary energy provider in Nigeria, and that's diesel. Unfortunately, it's not great. Grid is just about less than 30% availability across Nigeria. If you look, well, it's higher up north, but down south and a few towards the east and west, it's less than 30% available. So all around Nigeria is about 30%. So we started getting them to look less at their actual primary source of energy, which is diesel, which of course affects the climate, and then focus more on the benefits of renewable energy, which ultimately is a cheaper source of energy than diesel. So far, I could go on and on.
No, thank you so much for that great introduction. We'll get more into, some of the economics of solar and what it actually means practically. So I'm going to come to you, Omobola. What was your experience leading up to your work now in the industry, and why renewable energy?
All right. Thank you once again for having me today. And thank you, WIMBIZ, for the opportunity to speak on this very interesting topic today. So I would just like to give some context to your question. So if you look at it critically, we'll discover that one of the major challenges we face in Nigeria as individuals, business owners, corporation, is actually the problem around availability of power supply, and is also very epileptic, which we know that impacts the way people live their lives and how businesses are being done. So if you look at it critically, and also referencing Power Africa fact sheet for 2020, estimated generation for national use is about 25,790 megawatt. And current generation is about 6,800 megawatt, and what is being distributed is about 3,800 megawatts. That clearly shows that there is a deficit. And this is not just affecting people in the urban area, but is also impacting people in the rural base. And this, again, if you look at it critically, it has left about 80 million people out of a population of about 200 million without access to clean, affordable energy. So the question is, how can this energy gap be bridged? And how can we, promote and make the opportunity available for more people to have access to clean and reliable energy, and also promote energy inclusiveness? I would say one of the most effective ways of doing that, in line with the Sustainable Development Goal 7, is the use of renewable solar energy to actually bridge this gap and also address the energy demand in the market currently. And I will say that at Energy, that is what we do. And in the past about 8 years, we've been able to provide this sustainable, clean, affordable energy to commercial and industrial sector of the economy, and also solar home systems for residential use. So that means over the past 5 years, we've been a major contributor to how people have access to clean energy for their productive use, and also to drive business operations. And it's very evident that a lot of people have had good testimonies about the cost savings they've had, especially for businesses, around their OPEX spend, cost savings, and also general socioeconomic outcomes is greatly improved. And also the impact sectors have been helped because they can do business seamlessly and also account for more profitability. Thank you.
Can you just tell us, still on you, Omobola, we talked a lot about solar and everybody knows about solar, but in terms of renewable energy generation as a whole, for those who may not know the sector quite well, what are some of the other sources that could potentially be viable in a country like Nigeria in terms of generation? What other renewable energy sources are there?
Okay. So for me, I think we have quite a number. We have the wind, we have solar, but because solar is what I do now and is extremely viable, we have abundance of sunshine in our environment. So again, it affords everybody the opportunity to have access to that solution. as against the myth that that solution doesn't work, or people feel that getting that solution is pretty expensive. But again, I would say that the long-term benefit outweighs whatever the initial perception is. And again, in the market, I would say, yeah, a lot more adoption is ongoing around solar, and a lot of education and sensitization is also going to demystify the myths around the efficacy of that source of energy.
Thank you. And I like what you said about demystification. So for those who want to actually tap into real opportunities, can you just sort of outline what some of those are? So, and think of it from the perspective of someone who's a novice, who's actually never been in the industry, actually, either from a career perspective or an entrepreneurial perspective. What are the opportunities that exist?
Okay, so speaking generally about renewable energy, for solar, in my opinion, is a bit saturated. There's so many solar companies coming out, so the competition there is quite, I would say, intense. But there are other renewable energy sources like wind. I was passing by the other day and I saw one of the commercial banks. They had a wind, they had a small wind, I want to call it a wind turbine, my kids corrected me that I was wrong, but it was a mini wind system on the roof of the ATM, center of the bank. So wind is something that we're not leveraging on. Outside of that, I hear there's another wind powered estate out in Abuja, because of course the intensity of wind in Abuja up north is higher than it is down south, but there's still an opportunity to play there. Like I mentioned earlier, biogas and biomass. When I looked or made a quick comparison between the initial cost of investing in solar and the cost of investing in biogas, biomass, using some of these our waste products, they were not too far apart. And I was thinking, why aren't people paying attention to that? Because it's actually there. There are tires, there are pure water sachets, and a couple of other things that when you burn them, you dry them up, you burn them, you can convert them to gas that you can use to power cities. And these are the kind of solutions that I see that are available. There's also hydro and a few more renewable energy solutions that we can provide in Lagos and in Nigeria as a whole.
Thank you for that. I'm just going to take you to task a bit on the solar company, because, you know, if you work in the oil and gas sector, if you describe yourself as an oil and gas company, you're very specific about whether you work upstream, downstream exploration, or in production. So when you say that there are a lot of solar companies, the question I have for you, are there a lot of companies that supply batteries, for instance? So what are some of the specific opportunities? Think of it, can I supply services to your company? Could that be a business opportunity for an entrepreneur, for instance?
That is absolutely correct. So if I speak specifically to solar as a source of renewable energy, there's so many, the value chain is quite huge. So you could supply...
Please break it down for us.
Yes, yes. You could supply solutions as small as the nuts and bolts to hold the panels on the roofs, the racking materials to mount the panels on the roofs. You could supply the ducting, the ducts, for the cables. You could supply the batteries. You could supply the racks for the batteries. The value chain is quite huge. And outside of the supply of equipment, you even have services also. I was doing a quick research, and there's I'm not sure whether it's Kenya or Burkina Faso, where women actually do the solar installations on the roofs. So, I mean, we limit ourselves by thinking, oh, it's a man's job. But the reality is that I'm an engineer in training. Women can do it as well. So there's really nothing that limits you, because it's quite simple. You know, you just mount the panels on the roof, bolt it down, and then you come back down and you get paid for providing that service. So there's a whole value chain that we can consider even within the solar solution as a source of renewable energy.
Fantastic, and I think that's a very important point. So, Omobola, I want to ask you, given that it's a nascent industry, it's an emerging industry, usually, in order for people to feel comfortable to see it as a viable proposition, whether from a business or career point, is there an industry body? Is there a regulation around the industry? What are the barriers to entry? Who do you have to register with? You know, all these sorts of practical questions. Can you maybe shed light on the industry structure? How is it organized today in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I think Pamela spoke quite a bit about it already. So I would say I can maybe categorize it into three aspects. So I'll talk about the upstream players, and those will be the manufacturers of the solar systems. You have the assemblers, people that assemble the solution. You have people that are into the maintenance and repairs. You have people that are into the R&D of the solar solution component. And then I can talk around the downstream. So for downstream distribution of the solar component, as well as after-sales services. Then also we have people in the mini-grid that do mini-grid related activities. It could be feasibility studies, it could be site identification, it could be design, it could be planning, and it can be customer acquisition, or generally the retail part of solar solution in the whole of the value chain. Then the third part will be the funding aspect. So you have quite a number of organizations or investors that invest in clean renewable energy. One of such great companies is Olon. And also you have some energy climate companies. You have financial institutions that support this. You have government agencies and donors. And you have individual donors as well. But I would say that the barrier to entry is not high. And for as many people as want to take on the opportunities there, I think you can start small and scale. Why? Because so I can start, you can start, from the downstream. You might want to retail, because if you have to go into manufacturing and all of the research and development, is a huge, huge sum of funds that you will need to start. But I always tell people, funds should not be a deterrent, why you should not tap into the viabilities and the opportunities that we have available in the space. So you can start small, either as a distributor or as a reseller. You can get the component, you can address the market, you can also generate revenue for your company. And for a company like Energy, we're very big on partnership. For as many people as want to start, either as an SME or people that want to accelerate their entrepreneurship pursuit, there's that opportunity for them. We have independent agents or deal originators. You can come on board as well, and we start to make commission based on referral. So I would say, again, barrier to entry is low. The opportunities abound, so more people can tap into that opportunity.
Yeah, in other words, people, please see Mrs. Mobala afterwards, and of course those online. So let's just, getting back to the regulatory and policy side of the industry. The market, some would say, is quite fragmented. You have the off-grid, the mini-grid, there's on-grid solar as well, which doesn't seem quite popular in Nigeria. How is the government supporting the sector? And, can you just very, very broadly, not in detail, what are some of the key regulatory steps that have been taken to support the sector, and are they effective?
Okay, I'll try and touch on it, and then maybe Mobala can help me out. All right, so I would speak in terms of, so I would leave the regulatory aspect. I think that's a bit broad. I mean, generally, government has tried everything based on the Paris Agreement and the NDC, the agreement that was signed earlier in the year by Buhari. But I'll try and speak to what I think government could do to facilitate the entire process. Some of the challenges we've had in Starside has been the cost of bringing in the equipment in country. We don't manufacture enough panels to meet the demands of most of the customers, so we need to import these equipments. Now, the issue is, for most of the renewable energy equipments that we import, there are custom duties and taxes. For most of the other countries around the globe, all these are exempt. So you bring in solar equipment at almost zero taxes or zero VAT. It's worse off for the batteries. And the excuse, because I've had several meetings with some of the Nigerian regulatory bodies, and the excuse is, oh, batteries are general. How do we know you're going to use it on a renewable energy side, or you could use it for something that is outside of the renewable energy scope, and that's why they can't remove it. So you pay taxes as high as 25% on import duties on batteries. And that's quite huge, because you have to transfer that cost back to your consumer. And then you hear people complain about renewable energy being too expensive. Initial cost of investment is huge, and this is even outside of your cost of financing. So if government were able to, pretty much remove or reduce or try to subsidize renewable energy to make it even more acceptable to the consumers in general.
Fantastic. And there's just two pieces of information I want to convey. Nigeria actually has a Renewable Energy Association, and I think actually Allon may be a member of that, as well as Starsight and Energy. So there is an industry body that is trying to coordinate and organize the sector. And then, the interesting thing you mentioned about batteries, some time ago I saw the statistic that, of course, there are different types of battery minerals, that the Democratic Republic of the Congo is the largest, produces 70% of the world's cobalt. Cobalt is a major mineral that is used in battery manufacturing, but it only captures about 3% of the value chain. And, I remember a country like Nigeria where we talk about the fact we produce all this crude oil, but we also import petroleum products. And then I say this because when I look at something like batteries that all the solar energy companies need, within Africa, we have all these resources. So why aren't we creating the value? And I think the renewable energy sector presents that as an opportunity. So I thought it was important to throw that out there. I don't know if you have any comments. But I want to talk a bit about the commercial side, the cost savings for businesses. So even if I'm not invested in a sector, I'm not an SME, but if I run a business, say in agriculture, or I run a fashion or a manufacturing business, how does this sector help me? And I'll start with Omobola in terms of my cost savings. Do you even have any data compared to my diesel or my grid-based sources of electricity?
All right. Thank you very much for that question. So again, as part of customer acquisition and education around solar energy generally, there's a perception that that form of energy is pretty more expensive, especially when you need to acquire the asset for the first time. So again, but the long-term benefit is imminent, is there, is very glaring. It's extremely beneficial for both businesses and even for residential users. So for instance, if you need to run a business in a country like Nigeria and you do not have constant electricity to do that, so that means you'll be very dependent or reliant on diesel generator. And we all know that the cost of fueling the diesel generator and maintenance, servicing it, and maybe over a period of time, 3 to 5 years, you might actually be thinking of changing the whole set because of the wear and tear, and also getting a new generating set. If I would like to compare that with the benefit of having a solar solution. So if you have a solar solution, that means that you can even be completely off-grid. So that means during the day, when the solar panels is generating electricity, at the same time, you can power your appliances. That can also support your business operations. And that means you already have a cost savings on the grid. And you have some excess stored in your battery that you can use for the nighttime for it depends on the sort of businesses you run or if you're a home user. So that means on that aspect you can save. If you look at the lifespan of having a solar solution, lifespan is 15 years plus. So that means in that 15 years plus, you might not need to spend anything extra to keep that service up and running, just regular routine maintenances. So if you compare that, and for our customers, we always run that calculation of cost-benefit analysis over a period of time, and people see that they can even have about 50% savings. So again, on the long run, it makes a lot of economic sense for people to get onboarded. Number one, your operations are not interrupted. You can have cost savings, a lot of profitability, and when you compare the impact on the environment generally, it's not, there's really no pollution, noise, there's sanity. And again, you're helping to reduce the carbon emission in the environment and on the planet generally, which is the whole goal of the SDG 7. So my answer to that is that on the long run is a lot more profitable.
Yeah,
and there are calculations to support that.
Fantastic,
fact,
and I'm
yeah.
really glad you talked about the carbon neutrality, because I find that African consumers in generally historically have not been as ecologically or environmental conscious, but that is now starting to true. And you can respond to that, but I wanted to throw in another aspect is this whole issue of acquiring the equipment. What are the different ways, maybe even I as a residential consumer, how can I acquire a solar home system if I don't have a huge reserve of income to just buy the equipment outright?
Okay, so there are a couple of companies like Energy, for instance, so where they offer a kind of lease-to-own model where you make an initial investment towards the asset and then spread the remaining for a duration of time. In Starside, what we do is we do something we call a power purchase agreement. Regular PPA is what is termed. So what that does is we take on the cost of the assets. So we bring the assets at zero upfront cost to any of our consumers, and we run the asset, we maintain, we replace when required for a duration of time. It could be 7 to 15 years, depending on what is comfortable for the customer. And at the end, the customer may opt to own the asset, depending on the contractual agreement. So that way, we take off the burden of you making that upfront investment. So there are a couple of companies that offer these types of, so you make regular payments to what you consume out of the asset. So there are different kinds. These are the two types of models. Outside of the upfront, making an upfront investment on renewable energy, you could have a lease-to-own model like company like Energy can offer, or a company like Starside. We do the power purchase where you pay for power that the asset produces, but Starside owns the asset. And just to add to the question on savings, so Mobala spoke on the residential. Now on the commercial, the SMEs, what we've seen to be the case, with Starside, we have well over 500 sites that we've deployed across board. And we've seen at least an average of 25% savings on their OPEX. So imagine we're bringing in the asset, but because we change the mode of operations for some of these commercial or financial institutions, which is the most, I would say, that's where we have the huge market share. So we move them from the diesel grid to renewable energy solutions, which is a mix of hybrid, solar batteries. For some that the solar is not enough to provide power, we do the diesel generators, but most of the sites up north run on solar batteries only. So you have sites that run 100% renewable energy. We have about 2 sites up north that we only turn on the generator to just get the oil, put it back off. So for those kind of sites, they have been able to at least get an average of 50% savings on their cost of energy. So with renewable energy, the savings are huge. Yes, there's a long-term investment that people usually don't want to take note of. But the truth is, when you look at the tenure, for 10 years, you'll be saving millions and millions of naira just by switching out of your diesel and grid to renewable energy.
And I think that is a very, very important point. So just to briefly take a bit of a check and summarize what they've said is we shouldn't be dissuaded from seeing it as a viable proposition in terms of investment, because there are ways to acquire it depending on your income profile, whether as a residential consumer or as an SME or a business. So, and you said most of your consumers are financial services. Which other industries are we seeing taking up solar energy?
So outside of the financial institutions, we've got fuel stations. Gas stations are getting more and
The
more
irony.
interested. Yes, they're getting more
The
and more
irony.
interested in renewable energy. Then we have the FMCGs, the huge consumers. For the blue chip companies, they have a mandate. 2025, they have to at least produce at least 25% of their energy should be renewable energy. For some, it's less. So for those, they have the greenwashing mandate. And they're trying also to leverage on their carbon credits. So you have some of the sites we've mobilized to, they will tell us, okay, Starside, we want to own the carbon credit because you get paid back for the amount of carbon you reduce. Yes. So that's getting more and more prevalent in the CNI
Yeah,
space.
and I hope the SMEs both online are listening, because I think one of the great things about this sector, you could also use it as a tool to attract finance. So if you're a business are seen as being sustainable, that can actually help you achieve other commercial or financial goals. Great stuff. So we're going to shift gears a bit, and I want to talk about gender, and I want to talk about women, and I want to make it, first of all, personal about the two of you. You used to work in the oil and gas sector.
That's correct.
And you worked in... You've always been in technology, but you've only been in renewable energy for how long?
About 6 years now.
About 6 years. So let me start with you, actually. I'll start with you, Pamela. How was that career transition? And do you see it as a pivot? Because there's often this debate in Nigeria that you're either oil and gas or you're renewables. The two of them don't mix. But here you are telling me that petrol stations have solar energy. So from a career perspective, how did you position yourself for an opportunity in renewable energy?
So during my career in the oil and gas industry, I got the opportunity to work with the power sector as well. So I already had a little bit of a background in power. But you mean to say that oil and gas and renewable are two exclusive career paths, that is so not true. I mean, I have oil and gas companies reaching out now for solar, so it's so not true. Everybody's
I was playing devil's advocate.
So everybody is looking at installing some form of renewable energy on their sites. I mean, it's becoming even more it's not even a nice to have, it's a necessity at this point. And so for me, speaking personally to why I switched from oil and gas to renewable, outside of my boss giving me the opportunity, I don't know why he liked me enough to give me the opportunity, but I think when I spoke about what I had been doing on the biogas and biomass solution, that gave him the inkling to give me the opportunity to work in renewable energy. I was also skeptical. You know, I sat down and I said, oil and gas is quite exclusive. You know, you speak about oil and gas and everybody listens. Why would I come to a new industry? But I mean, since I've joined, I haven't regretted it. And honestly, I believe that women are not represented enough, like I've seen also in the oil and gas industry. It's the same kind of perception. I see women always try to pull back. You know, I come in and I went for a conference recently and I saw a lady there and I thought she would, you know, thrive in the oil and gas, in renewable sector. And she was like, I don't think I want to. And I was like, you really should consider it. Do some research. And I'm here. Ask me questions and I'll tell you why you should come into renewable energy, because it's the future. You see, oil and gas at some point will become less of a trend. Renewable energy is huge, it's vast, it's power. Everybody would need power, everybody needs power. So the opportunity is there. And believe it or not, you may, because you see mom and pop companies that install solar, yes, they're doing a good job at that, but it grows a whole lot, it's bigger than that. So, I mean, we just need more women to come in and, you know, just give it a shot and see.
Your journey and the career, you know, what skills does a woman even need to thrive in this space?
Okay. So for me, I won't say it was a major shift because my first degree is in electrical engineering, so I've always been in the techie space. From telecommunication, I moved into energy and power management. So I worked directly from an OEM that was manufacturing transmission and distribution equipment, as well as renewable solar energy component. So I've been there. I started that journey in around 2014. For me, it was quite seamless, and but now I'm playing more or majorly in the renewable energy space. Then again, just alluding to what Pamela said, generally is renewable energy sector is perceived as a male-dominated space. And I really do not think this is true, because opportunities are bound for both male and female. And again, the underrepresentation of women in these industries needs to be increased, if I may say. Then also, the renewable energy space is evolving, and again, is presenting a lot more opportunities for women to accelerate or advance their career in that space, or for people that are entrepreneurs. You can start an entrepreneurial pursuit in that space. So again, it doesn't have to be people that are techie or women in STEM only. There are various opportunities in the career space Of course, there are accountants in that space. You have the marketing people. You have maybe real IT specialists, which for me, I don't think those roles it's not gender bias. So again, it's not just about driving the technology alone, but it's about building that sector, which both male and female we have a part to play, just to ensure that gender balance is there and we can increase the underrepresentation of women in the sector. So I would say the opportunities abound, and we like to encourage more women to take on those opportunities.
Okay, thank you very much. So just before we sort of open it up to some questions, I think there are a few coming from online. I hope you're all enjoying this conversation and sort of taking note of the opportunities. I was speaking to someone recently who is not a trained engineer, but she said she's looking to train for solar installations. I thought that was interesting because I remember you sort of alluded to something you were doing. You said you're an engineer in training. Can you explain how that actually works? So she's done electrical engineering. So presumably she's in prime position, but there are people who don't have an engineering background, but also want to play in installation. How can that work as something to do for a career?
Well, for me, I think it really starts by you having an interest. I mean, during our recruitment processes, we've had people who studied mathematics tell us they want to come in to do installations within Starside. We've had a mix of all kinds of people. We have people that have no knowledge of renewable energy, which is understandable. Again, it's quite new. But the truth is, we take these people on board, but we train them. So as long as you have the interest, you're willing to join the people that will go on the roof to do the installations, to learn, then we're fine. But the truth is, it starts by you having an interest, and then you try to learn on your own, develop, speak to the experts, go out with the teams to see how they're doing the installations. And believe it or not, if I had to compare with other industries, solar installations, they're not so difficult to do, to be honest. But as long as you can learn, irrespective of your background, as long as you can learn and you're able to grasp, get the job training, mix with the right people within your organization and even outside the organization, learn the language, then you should be fine.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And I'd just like to say that when we come to the end, I'd like you both to give us some practical tips about launching a career in the renewable energy space and launching a business as an entrepreneur. But we'll take a few questions now. I have one question here from the online audience. She says, or he says, great input from the panelists. I would like to know what Engineer Adegbite, this is what the person calls you, meant by there is more grid-borne power in the north than the south. By 2050, the research estimates that coal will be down to just 16% of global generation and fossil fuels to 38%. Overall, the coal, oil, and gas will continue to be 74%. It says, we haven't had light in the last 1 week, and I'm based in Abuja just by Asokoro. So I think what this person is saying, to sort of clarify why the North in particular has more grid-borne power. I think you said something about that. And then based on the statistics they were saying, they seem to be suggesting, well, fossil fuels are going to continue to be relevant for a long time to come. So I don't know how you want to answer that.
Well, my feedback was based on what we've gathered from most of our sites. I mean, like I mentioned, we're in all 36 states, and what we've gathered is that the availability of grid is better up north than it is down south. And I mean, it's from individual sites that we've been able to measure, and this is us measuring grid, diesel consumption, and also the impact of renewable energy that we've brought to these individual sites. So that was why I mentioned that it's better up north. Now, on his comments on, yes, fossil fuels will still be relevant. And we're not trying to say that we're going to completely scrap fossil fuel. I mean, we're an oil-producing country. So we still need to ensure that we're able to generate revenue from fossil fuels. But the truth is, we also need to start to push for more renewable energy. From research, it says about 10% of Nigeria's power should come from renewable. This is a mixture of hydro, geothermal. We don't have that yet, but mostly hydro, wind, and solar. Solar is growing. I mean, in Starside, we've installed well about 21 megawatts of solar across Nigeria, and that's quite, it's a significant number. There are a couple of PPAs that have been awarded as well. 12 of them have passed through. The remaining 2 are still under review. So there's a lot of growth that we're going to see for renewable energy, and that's going to also contribute to the 10% mandate for 2025.
So do we have any questions from the live audience here? Does anybody have any questions for the panelists or comments? Otherwise, we'll continue with the discussion. And, okay.
My question really is mostly related to solar. We started off the conversation talking about the fact that we're energy poor. If we look at the demographic of Nigeria and we look at the population in dire poverty, that's huge. And as it's huge, it presents a huge opportunity. So my question is, first of all, even if you look at urban centers, one of the constraints that has been discussed about solar is the amount of space, physical space that you require. That's number one. And then number two, to what extent can these renewable solutions be scaled in the parts, the demographic that is most in need, most in want, at a, yes, affordable from their perspective, but at an economically viable perspective from the entrepreneur's perspective.
I'd like to divide that question into two parts about the physical space of solar. Maybe I'll start with, actually on mobile life, you want to take that, and then the scalability to communities in an affordable way could be the second part. Yeah, thank you.
So in response to that, I think the space constraint, I would say, is quite relative, because if you have a solar request, for instance, you want to get for your business place or for your home, the first thing any professional company, so to say, will do is to come for an assessment at your location and also advise you on the system sizing and the design. So again, I think that most times addresses the space constraint. Then number two, the industry is evolving, so is the technology, right? So the technology is becoming, and components becoming very sophisticated. In time past, you used to have solar panels, maybe just with very little wattage on them for you to put on your panels. But now we have solar panels with increased capacity. So again, that helps to reduce the footprint of the panels itself on your roof. And again, that's one of the focus of most companies, to ensure that that footprint can be reduced and also give you the sort of generation that will drive your business operations or give you a productive use around your home. So I think it's relative and it can be addressed based on a case-by-case basis.
All right, on the question for accessibility, scalability and accessibility for people that want solar but can't have access to it. So for scalability, well, Mobala has started by addressing the issue of footprint. Now, for scalability, it usually first starts by, of course, assessing whether or not we can use the available space for solar, and then we provide a solution. Now, for customers that want the panels but don't have access to it, I'm really trying to figure out the question, because I wanted to start from customers that want power, and I was taking it from the perspective of what RIA is doing with the microgrid solution. And then
the Rural Electrification Agency of Nigeria.
Yes. So there are customers that want power but don't have access to power. So I was thinking maybe that's the direction of the question, correct? Or and affordability. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay. All right. So speaking to the project that RIA is doing, so yes, these consumers can afford power, but they just don't have access to it. And the unfortunate thing is that from some of the earlier studies, there was a perception that it has to be less profitable for it to be viable, but that is changing with all the access to funding and grants from government and so on and so forth. And then the strategy started changing even to be more focused on finding anchor clients. Those are clients that can actually afford the power. Use the anchor clients as a basis to make the investment and then provide power to the consumers around the anchor client. So that way, power is a little bit relatively cheaper for the consumers while leveraging on that consumer, the anchor clients, the big FMCG or another, maybe one of these big tier companies or even an estate, to use that as a reference to make that investment on the asset while providing power to the consumers around them. So we've been thinking, a lot of thinking has happened from RIA, from a lot of all these government bodies to address that issue of willingness to buy power but no accessibility to power. Renewable energy.
Thank you very much. And I would also add that there are quite a lot of different needs at that level. Some of these pay-as-you-go solutions are also providing basic electrification and appliance solutions at the very basic rural level. And quite a lot of donors and grant-funded organizations are working in that space. We're just going to take a short break. Sorry? Okay, yeah, we'll come to you. But what I wanted us to do was before we launch fully into the audience Q&A, to take a short break so we can take a 1-minute video from our sponsors all on. So I hope the tech team are ready for us with that. If not, we'll continue with one more question. And then when you're ready, you can let us know. So let us know how you'd like us to proceed. Should we continue? Okay, so let's take the question from the lady over there. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thanks for a very enlightening session. I think you kind of spoke to two things actually that are quite, I would say, important for me. I work in oil and gas. And yes, definitely we do use solar in some of our sites. And it's getting even more rampant because, everyone is seeing that it's viable, instead of burning the diesel for the amount of hours that the stations are open for. But aside from that also, we all know that oil and gas is not going away as quickly as we hope, should I say. Especially, when you even look at coal as well, we've been talking about coal being phased out for years and it's still being used. So it's kind of similar to oil and gas, even though they're trying to see how they can also get some cleaner fuels out of it with the LPGs and all of that. But that aside, I think one thing that you spoke about was, of course, transitioning from oil and gas into renewables. For me, at the moment, that is something I'm looking at. Okay, what is the future? What are the opportunities in renewables? So my question would be how, you said your story, which was you had an opportunity to launch into it. But is there a strategic way that one can look at this to transition from, because I do oil and gas trading and that's all I've known. And I think Rolke mentioned earlier as well that if you're in oil and gas, you're in oil. I kind of feel like that. So, how do I get myself out of this into a new space? How do I transition? I'm not an engineer, so I have no background in all the techie. I'm not even techie as well. So how does one start to gradually transition into renewables? Thank you.
Great question. I don't know who wants to tackle that. I wanted to throw in a question from the audience. I don't know who's going to take her question. Will you take? Okay. There's a question for the audience, and actually several, but I'll take one for now. The question says that there are concerns about the problems associated with solar panel disposal on the long term, a potential downside to clean energy. What work is going on to proactively mitigate this inevitable explosion? I believe this is potentially another huge opportunity in the value chain. So Mobile, I'd like you to take that, and I'd like Pamela to take the question on the career transition.
Okay. So the question is more around disposal. Okay. So I would say that for people that are looking into maybe disposing components, solar components, there are companies that already are like experts in this, and Energies tend to be one of them. So we have the environmental, social, and governance policies in place. And one of the policies is also to drive the proper disposal of those components, batteries, and every other component, just to be sure that at the end of the day, they do not become hazardous to the environment and to people generally. So if there are needs or requests of such, you can contact maybe companies like Energy or leverage some other experts in the industry that are also big on governance and can also help you to ensure that these components are properly disposed so they do not cause hazard to our environments on the long run. So that will be my feedback for that. Individuals should not attempt to dispose that by themselves. They should reach out to experts that will do that for them in a professional manner.
Thank you very much, Omobola. Over to you, Pamela.
All right, so for the question regarding career switch from one, I would say one career, sorry, excuse me, from transitioning from one career to the next. Like Mobola said, there are different sectors within the solar energy space, solar renewable energy space. The first thing to do is to identify where you want to fit. You mentioned you're in training. That's something that is lacking a lot in renewable energy as a whole. The only training facilities, I know maybe Olon has a couple of affiliations. Trading. Okay, I heard training. Oh, oil and gas trading. All right, so trading, I mean, okay, that's a difficult one. But I'm sure there is. So where I was coming to is different departments that exist in the oil and gas industry also exist in renewable energy as a whole, solar, wind, whatever. Procurement is one. You have procurement in every organization from oil and gas to telecoms. You could easily fit into the renewable energy space. Same with sales, same with some aspects of engineering. So it's really about finding what department would fit your, I would say, that you're more comfortable working in. Maybe trading could be procurement, it could be sales, since you meet with customers, and then you just make the switch and learn from there.
May I just, with your permission, as a moderator, maybe just offer another perspective is, I think one of the things that we're increasingly seeing is the entrepreneurial approach. So you work in an oil and gas company. You could actually be the person that helps drive the renewable energy initiatives or the push to the cleaner energy transition. The second thing I would say is maybe you should start seeing your value more in terms of your skill set rather than specifically an industry banner. And the reason I say so is I started my career covering the oil and gas sector, and here I am moderating a panel on renewable energy because I spent time building the knowledge base to be able to at least speak to the broader issues effectively. So I would advise you to read more around the subject, probably seek a mentor who has been through a similar transition path. So those are avenues you could explore as well. We have a question here from someone who says that could the panelists provide a simple comparison of solar generated power versus national grid or generator supplied power? I ask because I've seen data that shows that solar isn't economically viable for a 10-unit residential estate. This probably requires a dissertation. So I don't know who is brave enough to launching very briefly and broadly, even if you're not able to provide specific data, but the question of what makes sense. Do you need a lot of scale? Can you supply just a 10-unit residential estate, Omobola?
Did you say 10 units?
Like yeah.
10 units.
10 units, so 10 homes.
Okay, 10 homes, yeah. So, again, like I said earlier, the first thing to look at is your long-term plan. If it's going to be on a long-term basis, I would say competitively, solar is more profitable if you look at the long-term benefits that you will get. Why am I saying this? If you have solar in each of those homes or those apartments, and is well-sized, well-designed, well-sized to address the energy need of such homes. You might not necessarily even need the grid. And why am I saying that? We have provisions, for customers that are even completely off-grid. Okay, so let me give an instance of the telecommunication sector. We've done a couple of sites and installations for them. For sites that are even completely off-grid, they are able to generate, and for them, they've seen huge savings. But again, that is for sites that are completely off-grid without diesel generation spend, right? But when it comes to electricity, I know that it's easy for individual homeowners to say, okay, on a monthly basis I'm paying X, Y, Z, but if I go on solar, it will definitely increase what I do on a monthly basis. But again, it brings me back to say that having that solution again is even less expensive as it used to be. Because on a monthly basis, you can begin to make payments on the lease to own plan. And of course, before we started to offer the lease to own plan, we did a lot of competitive analysis as against what a regular household will spend vis-a-vis using a generator and using electricity. So on a lease to own plan, you can have less than 60,000 paid on a monthly basis for you to enjoy 24/7 electricity uninterrupted to do everything that you need to do. So again, I would say that the long-term benefit, if you look at the return on investment or cost-benefits analysis over maybe just a 2-year period of time, you might not see significant savings. But if you're looking at it from maybe like from a 3 years upward and above, I'm sure that you can have above 50% savings on energy spend. So to the person that asked the question, is a lot more profitable to get onboarded on solar solution systems.
Thank you very much for that, Omobola. So 2 additional questions from the audience. The first one, I'll throw that to you, Pamela. It says, solar power usage appears elitist, ironically. Despite our abundant sunny climate available to be harnessed for the benefit of all, following from the previous question, is the industry focused on pushing this solution as the preferred power option and therefore pursuing the necessary research and technology that would make it cheaper, more accessible and desirable by all, regardless of social class? For instance, having open innovation programs focused on solar power technology solutions and ideas that could attract submissions from talents all over the country. So there's several parts of that. First of all, it seems like an elitist industry. Maybe the second part suggests, are they pushing an agenda as the preferred option? And if so, if they are, where is the technology that will really make it cheaper for all social classes? So hold that thought, because I want to throw in the second question that has just come in. Is it possible for renewable energy to be distributed such that not everyone needs to have their own assets? That's for Mobola. You may have answered this a bit before. I ask because I wonder what will happen to the renewable energy companies if every home and office have their own assets. In other words, there's enough business to go around. So I will start from you, Pamela, on the elitist question.
Okay, so solar being elitist, I would say it's not true. My first experience with solar were with the little boxes, the Lumos boxes. Now, those boxes were, they were not meant for the elitist, as it were. They were meant for people that wanted to charge their phones or need a light bulb, or as the bigger units for television sets. So the perception, and I think what they were trying to do as, I'm not a representative of Lumos, but what they were trying to do was to push renewable energy to those that require power. The goal, I don't believe, was to make renewable energy the primary source of power, but it was to address a need. And if renewable energy or solar is what is available, why not use it? So, and then of course, the commercial aspect was also considered. Now, the second part of the question that speaks to open. Yes, there are 2 aspects, or even more than that, for solar as a source of renewable energy. There's the R&D aspect. Like I mentioned earlier, we don't manufacture enough solar panels in Nigeria. Now, that is another place of play for people that have the investments we can go into manufacturing. There's a lot of talent in Nigeria. There's a lot of talent in Nigeria and even outside Nigeria looking to come back in to the country. We can leverage on their expertise and begin to manufacture solar panels here. Yeah, so I think that.
I actually think All On runs an annual proposal, an annual sort of process for entrepreneurs to submit proposals to attract funding. So there are a lot of sort of incubation and acceleration type opportunities out there in the market. And I'm sure you can get in contact with the All On team via WIMBIZ if you want to learn more about those. Okay, so there was a question on the asset ownership, whether everybody has to actually own their asset for solar to be distributed.
So for that, the answer is no. There's another segment of the solar industry that is focused on mini-grid development. So you have companies that are dedicated to the engineering, procurement, and construction of mini-grids, and that solution is called the centralized solution. So that means that if that is put in place, a community can enjoy 24/7 electricity from that central generation point and have electricity distributed to various homes, and you're metered. And maybe you pay on a monthly basis, or you do kilowatt hour payment. So the answer to that is yes. But for us, we support with the technology to have that solution developed. But there are people focused on mini-grid development that afford communities the opportunity to get renewable, sustainable energy without necessarily owning the asset, but you just pay your monthly fixed rate or kilowatt hour cost.
Thank you very much for the information. We have a comment here from Choguako, who says, concerning disposable of end-of-life solar panels, the Lagos state government has been thinking ahead. I was part of a stakeholders forum in this regard a few years back. As of today, there is some level of electronic waste management currently going on, though most people are unaware of it. Contact LASECBA, I think, which is a Lagos state agency, or email me. We're not going to give the person's email address in public, but I'm sure WIMBIZ can organize some interactions. Somebody specifically has asked, please, what is Madam Mobola's company? The company is Energy. How can I get enrolled in the training? I have electrical and an electronics background, and I've been a technical person for over a decade. I'm really interested in renewable energy. Thank you. I don't know whether you wanted to talk about your training for engineers.
So the training for engineers is very open. So as long as you're interested, passionate, and you want to get onboarded as an installer, so we call them installation partners. If you want the training on that solution, you can just shoot us an email at Energy, and definitely we'll get in touch with you and let you know our training schedule, and you can decide the one you want to fit on and come on board to get trained. And also we ensure that it's only certified people that we give the certificates, so that we're sure that professionals are actually the one offering the solution at the end of the day, and people are getting value for their money.
Fantastic, thank you. So we'll come back to the audience questions as we questions. There were a couple of additional questions I wanted to ask you. We talked about the gender perspective. One of the things that we know that from sort of wood fuel burning, women globally have been seen as probably the constituting the largest proportion of people affected by climate change. Does that resonate with you in any specific way, being that you work in a sector that is helping to reduce carbon emissions and you're also women? How have you seen the impact of what your businesses are doing affecting women specifically across communities? And are there examples you can give along that line? Oh, I can come back to that if you want to think about it. Whatever, if that helps. I don't know. Yes. Okay.
Okay, let me give it a
All
shot.
right, sure.
I recruited a lady, young lady who also has the passion for renewable energy, and she immediately introduced me to this company. Now, I've forgotten the name of the company, but they do some kind of cooking. It's like a kind of basket that cooks food. You just put it in a basket, and it cooks food without you using coal or any other type of, like what happens in the rural areas. So that solution, this gentleman invented something for the rural women to reduce the amount of time they spend burning or affecting the environment by using wood and all these other alternative sources of cooking. And I asked her to bring more, if you find any other. And truth be told, there's a lot of innovation going on out there. This gentleman had a website with different types of products. I keyed into this particular product because I found it very interesting. The pots were, I don't know how to describe it, but the baskets were made of different kinds of prints. So if you like pink, you pick the pink flowery, and then you put your pot of food in it, you seal it up, and then somehow you give it a couple of hours, and then the food is cooked. So I asked for more, but there's a lot going on, and I know more and more we're trying to really reduce not only the time we women spend cooking, but try to reduce the impact that we have on the climate by.
Very much for that. I thought it was a very important point because, we'll often hear about these incidents. If you even think about the fact that a lot of these petrol generators, the accidents that happen, the kerosene, lamps. So I think it's very important for us to look at just the overall social impact of such an important sector. I want to talk a bit about funding. Over the last 2 years, there were some big announcements in the renewable energy sector. I mean, I saw Energy in the headlights. I saw Starsight in the headlights. I saw Olon in the headlights, $10 million, $20 million seed rounds, and it looks like a lot of investors are just jumping on this. Impact funds, development finance institutions, venture capital. Can you tell us a bit about how easy it is to raise funds, both as women executives trying to help your companies grow, but also if an entrepreneur wants to go into the market, what are some of the things, opportunities, and challenges in the fundraising space, and how is that evolving? So I've come to your mobile lab because I know Energy had a big deal that was announced, I think a year ago or thereabouts, with several investors. Yes, so please tell us about that.
Okay. So I think the first part I'd like to answer is, you said, how easy is it? So I won't say it's totally easy to do that, because before you can consider fundraising, I think you should have gotten some track record already in the market. Your customer segment has to be very clear. You should have good traction. Your books have to be in place. Then again, your projection for growth has to be super clear. And also, it has to be very, very compelling. Because I'm sure nobody wants to put in an investment to any business that you do not see any potential or any opportunity for growth or profitability. So I would say that if you're planning to raise funds, then that means from day one of starting your business ethics has to be top-notch. It has to be 100%. On a daily basis, you need to ensure that your books are in place. Customer segment has to be very, very clear. Go-to-market has to be very clear. The problem you're solving in the industry has to be very, very clear. The sector or where you need to play has to be very clear. Then also you must have done your visibility studies, because again, you will realize that you are not the only company playing in that space. But again, you need to have data to back where you see the most opportunities, because these are some of the things that investors will look at before they can invest in your company. They need to be sure that one is going to be a viable investment, your company is healthy, and your company can scale. So I think in a nutshell, it's tough, but there are possibilities around it. Our sponsor today is Olon, and Olon is one of the investors Energy has, alongside Breakthrough Energy Venture, Electrify, and Norfund. And before we could get all those foreign investments, I'm sure that you know that a lot of hard work must have gone into place building the business itself. So again, you need to be sure that the business you are building today, you're building it for scalability, so that anybody can see the potential in that business, and you can have a compelling reason for any investor to even want to look at you or talk to you at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, I just wanted to give a true story about Starsight. I know I have the permission to do it. So Starsight started in 2005. It was started by a gentleman called Rex Adebajo. He saw that the financial institution were looking for a source of renewable energy solutions that was going to help them reduce their OPEX, their operating cost. Many years down the line, he sold the business, or investors like Helios Investment Partners, and African Infrastructure Investment Managers bought the business. I don't believe, he started with just 3 sites, beginning of the project in 2005. So I wanted to give this story so you're not discouraged by, finding funding and all that. He was very clear about who his target market was. He brought in the right team members to help address the markets, to go out there, to help him build a solid pipeline. He was able to prove that there was profitability, because nobody will give you money if they don't see that the business is going to be profitable. So was able to prove that there was going to be profitability, and was also able to show his value proposition, the value he's bringing to both the investors and to the customers. The business sold for, anyway, that's another story. It's another story for another day. But just to give you an idea of, as entrepreneurs, just start the business. Like she said, be ethical and have a focus. Know exactly where you're going. Take these key points that she mentioned, and then give your business some time. When you sell, you can reach out to me for some,
Thank you so much. And we're going to come back to the sponsors video now, which we're viewing earlier. Thank you, tech team.
Long was started by Shell. They wanted to do something significant to contribute to national development. And over a period of time, they basically realized, look, energy access is really the foundational development problem in Nigeria. We're set up to basically invest in companies that are providing power solutions to low-income communities and SMEs. And these are companies that are, they're in a new industry, they're quite early stage, they're quite risky. A typical commercial investor would not invest in them. And because of the fact that Shell's investment in Orlon does not have a return expectation, we can actually do these sort of slightly below market rate investments. Ultimately, we want to light up as many low-income households and SMEs in Nigeria as we can. And so everything we can do to make this company more effective, to scale faster, cheaper, and deliver more. Orlon was started by Shell. They wanted to do something significant.
All on again for the fantastic support to this program and the great work you're doing with entrepreneurs across Nigeria. We have what is more of a comment here, but it has things in there what I'd like you to address. And it's for someone who had previously looked at retrofitting their roofs with solar panels. They discovered that they would need an inverter system to add solar panels. That's number one. Number two, so it is technically possible, but solar power has very low yield. It is best suited to temperate climates where there is no need for ACs. A single AC uses as much power as a total of other equipment in the house. A solar panel the size of a roof won't generate enough power for a single AC. Number three, I'll pick just one more. Solar panel would work in a remote country house where there is no power and all you need is for fridge security lights to be working when you're not there. And finally, another one, there are quite several, this sounds like for or against. In California, where solar panels are used, key advantage is that power generated is fed back into the grid. And users get credit, so we don't have that system. So I guess that speaks to net metering. I mean, these are, pros and cons, if you like. Somebody who's tried to explore this solution and has faced barriers or challenges, how would you advise or respond to some of these things, being on the other side of the fence? I don't know who wants to have a go.
I can add to it. So the first question the person asks is around the inverter, that for you to use the complete solar system, you will need an inverter. That's very correct and true. So the other components that comes with the solar solution are the inverters, the batteries, the panels themselves, and the charge controllers. So you know that generating electricity from sunlight itself, that is DC power, DC energy, so to say. And what we use in our homes that our appliances can consume is AC power. So you will need all of those components to be in that solution for you to have that sort of conversion and energy for you to power your equipment or appliances, because those appliances basically run on AC power. And the second question, the person talked about air conditioning systems, that maybe the solar solution doesn't generate enough to power that. I would say I completely disagree. Because if you have the right system capacity and you have the right design done for you, the solar system can conveniently power your ACs in the home. So again, I think sometimes maybe people don't have enough information around this, but if you need to use an AC in your home, we will advise you that you go for a solar system or a solar solution starting from a 10 kVA that will power your ACs seamlessly. So just get the right system sizing and you'll be fine.
And to add to what Mobola said, there's a newer type of cooling, the inverter ACs. Now, the inverter ACs allows you to actually have your cooling system on a standard solar battery or solar inverter solution. So you can have your cooling with less impact on your solar installations.
Thank you very much for that information. The person who asked this question actually had quite a few other comments, because I think they're in the cups of considering an investment decision. So I think we can find ways to connect this person with actually both of your companies to pursue further conversations. Okay, so we're getting to the end now, close to the end. And so the final question is really looking at everything you said. If you're looking at it, this sounds like an interesting space. And it sounds like something that is going to be very relevant for many, many more decades to come. And we have to position ourselves both as career women and as entrepreneurs, or both, if you like. So I'd just like you to give us some very practical tips and advice based on how we can start. For those who are already in it and need to progress, and for those who are considering opportunities in this space. I wanted you to focus on the career side, and I wanted you to focus on the entrepreneurial, but please feel free to cross-pollinate. So who would like to go first in helping convince us why this is a viable industry and what we should be doing to position ourselves for the opportunity?
Okay. Again, I would like to reiterate that it's a very viable industry and is evolving. So that means a lot of opportunities abound in there for people that are ready and passionate to play in that space. So on the entrepreneurship pursuit, there are opportunities for you to advance that. Then again, I would say you might want to consider starting small with the focus on scaling. So for people that really need to maybe transition, or you want to tap into the opportunities in that space, you might want to consider the downstream sector of the renewable solar energy, where you can either be a distributor of the solution or solar systems. You can retail it if you wish to. And also we have interesting incentive packages for people that are like independent agent or deal originators. So based on referrals, and if the customer is onboarded, we have an incentive structure put in place. People can start. You can get commission, and you can start to build that. And for people that are on the small or medium enterprise space, you can start to retail this solution and also provide after-sales support. The opportunities there too is very enormous. And you might also want to seek partnership with the upstream players, people that already manufacture and do complete assembling of this solution, because on that part is a bit heavy on the funding and the capex required to start. But on the downstream, it is a fair play, and people can take advantage of that opportunity, leveraging partnership with organizations or companies that are already established and can offer such opportunities for partnership. So in a nutshell, it's quite, the barrier to entry is quite low, so people can enjoy the benefits.
Thank you so much, Amobola. Pamela.
Okay, so from the career perspective, speaking to two levels of experience. For people that are fresh out of school, just go right into renewable energy. Approach any of these existing companies, try and get in. You could come in as an analyst, you could come in as someone in procurement, someone in finance, someone on the engineering side, someone on the operations side, someone on the remote monitoring side. The value chain is quite huge. Find the one that you're passionate about, that you think you can fit into, and then you could approach any of these companies and interview, and hopefully you should be able to get absorbed in. Now, for those that are experienced, find what you're comfortable doing. If you're in sales, if your previous role is in sales and marketing, then of course there's a lot of sales and marketing in renewable energy. If your experience is in the technical side, find where you can find a good balance, and then of course move into renewable. The business is growing, like I said. This is how telecom started in the early days, and see where telecoms is today. So this is the time to, leverage. When you do 5, 10, 15 years and you speak to maybe future employers and you say you have 15 years experience, you'll be looking at tier 1 types of packages. So this is the time to come in into renewable energy.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been super, super amazing. I always say that life is energy, and what is life without energy? I think the possibilities are endless, and I think the renewable energy sector is a major leapfrog for our space. And I hope that when you live here, and for those who are online, that you'll never look at a solar panel on a roof the same way again, and in it you will see possibility. So I'd like to thank our panelists again, Pamela Adigbite and Omobola Omofaye of Starsight and Energy. Please give them a round of applause, and virtual applause as well to our online audience for being resilient throughout it all. And special thanks and kudos to our sponsors all on. It's been an absolutely pleasure partnering with you. WIMBIZ is extremely grateful, and we look forward to more fruitful partnerships going forward. Thank you again. My name is Rolake Akingbe-Filani, and I've been very, very happy to serve you. Thank you. Over to the anchor now. Thank you, ladies.
Wasn't that an awesome session? Please, let's give them another round of applause. If you're like me, you could barely eat. There was so much food in front of me, but my ears were twinkling so fast, I just had to listen. Thank you so, so much. Starsight, represented by Pamela, and Energy, represented by Omobola. Thank you so, so much. We're indeed quite grateful. And I want to say, I speak on behalf of everyone when I say we've learned quite a lot today. We would indeed, like Rolake advised, see a solar panel in a different way going forward. Thank you very much, Rolake. I think you're an excellent, excellent moderator. Thank you very much. While everyone was talking about energy, I kept looking at Rolake and I said, there is a career in being a moderator as well. Well done, well done. It's been an awesome afternoon. And once again, on behalf of WIMBIZ, I'd like to say thank you for making our time to come, especially those who were able to come physically as well as those online. Thank you very much. Today has been an excellent session. Thank you, thank you. So, at this point, I'd like you to please take a quick pause, look at the link. There will be a link to evaluate this session today. Please do your best to complete the link. Give us feedback for improvement. Give us your opinion on what you think about today's event. We use this feedback a lot to improve the presentations from WIMBIZ and to take into account your needs as well as your advice to improve. Thank you. While the evaluation is going on, I'll quickly go through the rest of the program to make some announcements. Those online, please, if you have any issues getting the link, just wave your hands. Is everyone okay online? You can put in the comments, say okay. I see a hand is raised. Tech team, please have a look. Feisara Fadairo seems to be having a problem with her link. Please give us some support. In here, please check your apps or your devices. Are you getting the link for the evaluation, please? Tech team, for the people present here, how do they access the form? By email. Email. So please check your email boxes. Okay. So I believe the evaluation is going on well and everyone is okay. But like I said earlier, if you indeed have any challenges at all, quickly signify by raising up your hand. Someone from the tech team will come to you. And if you're online, please do the same thing. Just raise your hand, someone will be in touch. Thank you. So once again, would like to say thank you to, listen very carefully, all on. All on, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're very grateful for this session. We're very happy to know that for women interested in going into this, I would say, part of the industry or part of business in terms of career as well, that you are available and able to support them. This is quite consoling and comforting because often women face a lot of, I would say, challenges assessing opportunities. But thanks to you and your collaboration with WIMBIZ, we are indeed hopeful that in the coming years, we won't have only 2 women on this panel. We will have a lot more women. And we will indeed have many women who would have become experts in these sectors as well. I can't tell you how much opportunities lie in the sector of renewable energy. Today we've talked about solar, but please take the time out and look at the sectors again. So much is happening there. Let's not make the mistakes we made 60 years ago, or 60 years plus ago when oil and gas came into Nigeria. And we thought it was a dirty trade because the guys would wear coverall and come out looking dirty. They deceived us then. Let's not let them do it again. Let's join them. Let's get on the rooftops. Let's not put our engineering degrees to shame. Let's use it. During the COVID, something that became very apparent was the fact that you can't depend on only one set of skills. You can't say you have a career of 20 years and that's all you want to do your lifetime. Many things have changed since 2019. Words like career evolution and evolving careers have become more common. Words like pivoting, you know? We used to look at those things as things that had to do with process. Now you take it and you apply it to your life. You pivot from being a commercial expert to becoming somebody who is very aware of what happens in the technical field. Even if you're not an engineer, get familiar with whatever happens in the industry where you are. Reskill, upskill, don't be afraid, be courageous. The worst that can happen is you fail. And then when you fail, what happens? You get up again. So I encourage you all, and I also encourage myself. Okay, we'll also like to invite all those who are perhaps attending in person or online who are not yet WIMBIZ associates. Please do your best to join us, and we promise you that the benefits that you get from being a member in the next few months, let me not even go into years, you would be grateful that you took this decision to join this organization. Join WIMBIZ, follow us on social media, visit our website on wimbiz.org. If you have any questions about membership, send an email to membership@wimbiz.org. Membership is spelled MEMBERSHIP @wimbiz.org. For upcoming events and programs, we already have WIMBIZ Associate Induction coming up on the 2nd of July. That's tomorrow. We also have a couple of WIMBIZ Institute trainings. One of them is coming up on July the 8th. If you do qualify for any of these programs, please visit the website, wimbiz.org, and complete and submit your information to the database. There's also an ongoing call for mentorship. If you're in need of a mentor, please go ahead and send in your details. We also want mentees who want to have mentors to please send in their details, as well as mentors who can spare a little time to mentor other people to grow in their careers, in their business, or in politics. All right, so finally, I'd like to say I hope you all enjoyed yourself and that indeed the session was rewarding for you. But before we round up today's event, I'd like to call on our very, very special Mrs. Nwakwo, who is WIMBIZ Executive Council Chairperson, to give us the closing remarks.
Thank you, and thank you so much. I'm not late. I was on the session virtually. I had to go to Abeokuta first thing this morning, and I did try to dial in, and at a point I was at home, and Hans said, you have to come, and honestly, I had to be here. And I had to be here for a number of reasons. The first one is, this is our first in-person, now we say hybrid, roundtable since January last year. Can you believe it? So give yourselves a warm round of applause, please. And to my ladies on Zoom, thank you so much for being with us. This is our new reality. We'll continue the virtual stroke hybrid, but it's just awesome that so many of you made it out to be with us today. And the second reason why I absolutely had to be here is because of our sponsor. So all on, and I'm going to let the cat out of the bag, but they literally chased us to make sure that this happened. They chased. They sent messages, they called. They have been, unbelievable with the zeal with which they wanted to have this roundtable happen. They wanted to have women talk about renewable energy, and they wanted to see us enter into this new phase of life with energy, with knowledge, with competence, and with zeal. So another round of applause, please, to our awesome sponsors today. And the third thing for me is, I don't know how many of you follow WIMBIZ, and I hope you all do on all our social media handles, and you're also on the WhatsApp groups. But today we started officially the marketing for our conference. So this year's conference will be the 20th annual conference. WIMBIZ has been doing this for 20 years. And this year, the theme of this year's conference is celebrating legacy. And it really is because we think it's awesome. WIMBIZ is awesome, but WIMBIZ is made up of you guys here today, the ladies on Zoom, and all our associates. So we're really, really excited. We're going to have a week long of events culminating in the conference, and you'll begin to see more marketing around it. So I encourage you to please look out for all the marketing. We're also going to try to make it hybrid, but given the circumstances that we're in at the moment, we're going to have very few limited physical tickets available. So once you see that going out, please make sure that you sign up and you get your tickets if you want to be in person. And for those that will be attending virtually, I promise you that it will be amazing. We have thought of absolutely everyone. So please make sure that you look out for all the marketing, and you certainly attend. And so to all the ladies here today, I say a very, very big thank you. I say a big thank you to our anchor. I don't know if she's gone back to sit down or she's left, but she was really, yes, it's right there. Thank you so, so much. I actually felt like I didn't have to come up again because you've done my job for me, so awesome. We really are very grateful for you. We thank you for your passion for WIMBIZ. We thank you for staying in tune with us. We thank you for attending our events. WIMBIZ we're really made up of you guys. So I encourage you, please, if you're not yet a WIMBIZ associate, it's very easy. And you'll be missing out on an awesome induction, by the way, tomorrow. But there'll be another one, hopefully, by the end of the year. So if you do qualify to be an associate, pick up a form today. Make sure you fill it. Get in touch with the headquarters. Make sure your form is received. And make sure you're penciled down, because you never know. You just might be inducted at the annual conference, which will be the 20th. So, having said that, again, it's a thank you very much. Wishing everybody a safe journey home for those who are with us in person. And to the ladies who are joining us on Zoom, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for giving us 2 hours of your time. I hope you found it useful. I certainly did. I've learned a lot. And more importantly, I want to please ask us to keep the sisterhood alive. WIMBIZ is really about a sisterhood. So look out for yourselves, please. Get to know each other, connect with us, and we look forward to seeing you at all the events, and especially at the 20th annual conference in November. God bless you.
Isn't she wonderful? Please give her another round of applause.